Hey, everybody, we are live. Welcome into Redacted on this Tuesday. I'm Clayton Morris.
I'm Natalie Morris.
And on this show, we tend to cover the stories the mainstream media largely ignores. And when you have the sort of like the right-wing media right now covering the DNC, then you have the left-wing media covering the DNC, we hope that we'll provide an independent voice to you to like what's going on right now in Chicago, what's happening with Ukraine, because we've got some big developments in the war in Ukraine. President Putin has said now that he is done negotiating with Ukraine. What is NATO going to do now? And will this lead to an all-out attack on European countries who are part of NATO? This is a major development we want to bring to you. And we have Russian generals now going on the record saying the West needs to stop right now or we are about to head to nuclear war. So we're going to get to that big piece of the story today.
We also are going to talk about how the DNC has abortion trucks, vasectomy trucks. They're celebrating IUDs with huge statues of those things. They're saying that is so people can follow the science. So glad you asked. I have some science around IUDs that I think you're going to really be interested in that maybe then would prevent you from standing with a big IUD statue with a thumbs up in a selfie. Maybe that's not the best profile given that it is associated with cancer and hair loss. So we're going to just talk about how fun it is, how so fun to celebrate reproductive rights in this way.
We're also going to talk about the third-party candidates. We're going to talk about RFK Jr. and a bombshell bit of viral news happening today, which will tell you, could RFK Jr. be dropping out of this race? That really leaves, to my mind, unless I'm missing somebody else who's at least has a large enough platform and a large enough voice, Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai, really the only one left right now. And
Jill Stern.
Jill
Stern's still in it, and Cornel West.
Oh, Cornel West. That's
yes.
right. That's right. Yeah, I mean, this is unbelievable. So we're going to see whether or not this is why the United States of America has never had a successful third-party candidate win the presidency, because these two uniparties that come together as a uniparty try to drown out these voices and crush them.
Specifically, Nicole Shanahan, the running mate of RFK Jr., says that the Democratic Party has been thwarting them at every turn,
of course,
basically sabotaging them in a really terrifying way. Now, just a few hours ago, RFK Jr. was set to testify in Pennsylvania to be a witness as to whether or not he can be on the ballot there. And mysteriously, his flight was canceled. He showed up late and the judge denied him the right to testify in his own court hearing. So how'd that flight get canceled? How'd that hearing get moved out of Philadelphia to Harrisburg? Is this another sabotage? We can't trust anything. And so, yeah, we're stuck with these two parties, which are a uniparty. It really sucks.
Someone pointed out in the chat, it's Jill Stein. I think you said Jill Stern. Then I parroted what you said.
Okay, who's Jill Stern? Someone I just made up? Sorry about that.
You made her up, but she's apparently running for president.
Okay.
Jill Stern and Jill Stein, of course. And we're also going to talk about Biden's border record last night at the DNC. President Biden said, the border is more secure now than when President Trump was in office. They've turned more people away at the border and sent more people back. And the border is secure with Kamala Harris and President Biden. We're going to talk about all of that and more. So we've got Scott Ritter joining us here in a moment. We're going to talk with JJ Carroll. Also on the border, we've got a busy show for you on this Tuesday. But first,
we want to tell you about our friends over at American Financing, because we've been talking ad nauseum about how the economy is really taking all of us by the neck and wringing us around. It's awful. So what do you do when you can't make your monthly finances, when you can't pay your housing expense, your mortgage, your groceries, your gas? Well, most Americans are feeling this way, and it's tough. So if you feel this way, you can reach out to American Financing. What they do is treat you like a wealthy person who can leverage your assets. This is something that wealthy people know that working class people are never taught, is that you can leverage your assets for a more favorable interest rate product and actually build wealth. If you have a house, you have equity that you can tap into, you can do the math and see, does this make sense, or do I just keep digging myself into a hole with high interest rate credit card debt? So they will teach you this, and in fact, they save their average customer about $800 a month. So they have salary-based mortgage consultants, and they will help you. So what you do is head on over to americanfinancing.net/redacted or give them a call. It's 866-890-8434. Call them today or head on over to americanfinancing.net/redacted.
Now to the war in Ukraine, where continued attacks inside of the mainland of Russia have prompted Russian President Vladimir Putin to say he is done negotiating with Ukraine. So does that mean no peace negotiations on the table? What does that mean? Last night, we heard President Biden saying that they're going to stand with Ukraine until the end, and that after 3 years of supporting Ukraine, they are free. They are a free country. This comes 24 hours after we learned Ukraine, of course, is banning Christian church in Ukraine. So what does freedom exactly mean? Let's ask former UN weapons inspector, former U.S. Marine Scott Ritter, who has, probably the most acute understanding of what's going on there, better than just about anyone. Scott, great to see you, and welcome back to the show.
Well, thanks for having me.
So when you heard President Biden last night say, we're going to stand with Ukraine until the end, that Vladimir Putin thought he would just walk all over Ukraine within a few months, but 3 years later, Ukraine is still free thanks to NATO weapons, U.S. monies flowing into Ukraine. And now we learned Vladimir Putin saying he's done negotiating with Ukraine. Can you help us unpack all of these big movements over the past 24 hours?
Well, first of all, I think Biden's statements reflect the ignorance of not only the man, Joe Biden, but of the U.S. government, and indeed, I would say the United States as a whole, about Russia, Ukraine, and this conflict. The irony is the United States took away my passport and denied me the ability to go back to Russia for a third time in a span of a year. Why would I dare travel to Russia? Perhaps to learn more about the Russian people, the Russian nation, what motivates Russia, how they think, what the Russian soul is, what the Russian perspective is. Important things if you're going to take a look at the broader picture of what the Russian objective in Ukraine is. You see, for people like Biden, people in the U.S. government, the American people, we only think in terms of, good versus evil, black versus white. We are unable to comprehend that this conflict between Russia and Ukraine is between brothers, that this is very much a civil war that's brought on not because of differences of opinion of the brothers themselves, but that one brother was pushed by outside powers to behave aggressively against the other brother, compelling that brother to respond. This was always looking for a peaceful outcome. It was compelled to initiate what they call the special military operation, which was a joint collective security action to prevent Ukraine from attacking the Russian people of Donbass. But the purpose wasn't to occupy Kiev, but rather to compel Kiev to the negotiating table, which 6 days later Kiev went. And less than a month later, or a little bit more than a month later, they had a viable peace agreement. The Istanbul Communique, 1 April 2022, could have brought an end to this war. The war was in Ukraine to have a peaceful outcome because we are not friends of Ukraine. That's the other irony here. Biden acting as if America is Ukraine's friend. We are not the friend of Ukraine. We view Ukraine as a tool of a larger objective of destroying Russia. And the second that tool gets blunted, destroyed, damaged, rather than repairing it, we throw it to the side. And that's what we're in the process of doing right. Bring down Russia has failed. If anything, this conflict has strengthened Russia. We know it's strengthened Russia militarily. The Russian army today is bigger, stronger, more capable than it was when this conflict started. Russian defense industry is outproducing the collective West by 1.5 times. The West is collapsing. The German economy is such that they cannot continue to fund Ukraine or the German military, and the same holds true for almost the rest of Europe as a whole. So, what Biden is talking about is just pure bloodlust, pure fantasy. And the saddest thing is that those Americans in the audience that were cheering him were buying into this, while the Ukrainians that they pretend to support continue to die.
What happens to Ukraine now? Vladimir Putin saying he's done negotiating. There's no more negotiating. Well, what does that look like then? Does it lead to a takeover of Kiev? Where do you see this going from Putin's perspective?
I've asked this question to a number of Russians trying to elicit a response. And they always refer me back to Vladimir Putin's words before putting their own interpretation on this. When this conflict started, Vladimir Putin gave a speech to the world, to the Russian people, to the people of Ukraine. about why Russia was engaged in this. And I remember a lot of so-called Russian experts in the West were poo-pooing this speech. Ridiculous Russian propaganda, et cetera, especially when Putin talked about the history of Ukraine, or more specifically, the lack of history of Ukraine. And he called Ukraine a creation of Vladimir Lenin, Lenin's mistake. I heard those words today, I heard them yesterday, and I've heard them before when I talked to people about what the future of Ukraine is. They said that Russia will correct Lenin's mistake. And I said, well, what does that mean? It means that Ukraine didn't exist before Lenin created it. Russia will correct Lenin's mistake. And the implication is that Ukraine will not exist when this war is over. Now, whether or not that translates into actual Russian policy has yet to be seen. But Vladimir Putin is a man who is very careful in his use of words. And by giving voice to the artificiality of the Ukrainian state, when he says that there will be no negotiations with Ukraine going forward, the implications of that could be that there will be no Ukraine going forward. And this opinion is held by members of the Russian Duma, actively involved in Russian politics. This is held by serving Russian officers. It doesn't automatically mean that their personal opinion becomes policy, but these are the people who advise Vladimir Putin and his inner circle. So Zelensky may have made a mistake that is fatal to the modern nation state of Ukraine by going into Kursk. He may have, in fact, sealed the fate of Ukraine insofar as that when this war ends, and it will end, there will be no Ukraine.
What does NATO do then? Will NATO sort of sit back and allow that to happen? Do they have any choice in the matter? You hear Biden last night, you hear all the neocons and all the war hawks, the war pigs, clearly, don't seem like they're going to want to let that happen. Where do you see NATO going then?
Well, NATO really doesn't have any choice. The conventional military capacity of NATO to wage ground conflict against Russia is close to nil. It's a completely different war that's being fought right now, one that NATO isn't prepared or organized to fight. If you take a NATO formation, a division, a corps, and you advance it against their Russian counterparts, this isn't going to be old doctrinal warfare. They're going to be hit with swarms of drones that they don't have a defense for. All of their equipment will be destroyed within a 24-hour period. Their communications will be jammed. Their troops operating in large formations will be devastated by these small FPV drones. As the troops break up into smaller units, they'll be hunted down by swarms of FPV drones that NATO has no defense for. NATO simply can't sustain, which means NATO will then seek to bring about a strategic side to this fight, deep strikes into Russia to punish Russia. And again, what I've been told, and I had a very, very chilling conversation today, just an hour before this, apparently the Russian leadership has made a decision that it will not sit back and allow NATO the opportunity to carry out deep strikes against Russia. That if it gets to the point where Russia believes that NATO is preparing such strikes, Russia will react preemptively, and the preemption will be decisive and terminal for many European nations. In short, Russia will launch a preemptive nuclear strike against Europe that destroys entire nation states and then dare the United States to do something about it. Again, this isn't the policy of Vladimir Putin. This is the policy as articulated by people who are in the Russian government and who advise the Russian president. It scared the living dog poop out of me, and I hope it scares the dog poop out of every person that's listening to this broadcast.
I mean, for something to scare you, that's chilling. I mean, it's terrifying. And to think that they're going to continue to poke this bear and want to see. I mean, I just don't understand what their end game is. How does NATO think that they're going to solve this unless they completely step back from this? We spoke to a source, a high-ranking Russian general as well in the Kursk region, and a friend and source of the show, saying that he's sort of pleading with the Americans right now to stop stop this right now, because this will be World War III and nuclear war. This coming from a Russian general on the front lines. This is going to lead to nuclear war. I mean, you're hearing it, your sources, our sources saying the same thing.
Well, I mean, that's the direction we're heading. And, what is the American response? To send the FBI into my house to threaten me under the Foreign Agent Registration Act for daring give voice to these Russian voices. Do they want the Russian voices silenced? Do they want the American people ignorant? I mean, I always, people are like, well, Scott, you're a little too close to this subject. You're taking it too personal. I spoke out against the war in Iraq in 2002, 2003. In doing so, I traveled to Iraq many times. I met with the Iraqi government. I interviewed senior Iraqi officials. I made a documentary film with the assistance of the Iraqi government, not because I was a servant of the Iraqi government or a foreign agent, because I was trying to stop a war that didn't need to be fought, that was being sold to the American people on a lie. Today, I'm trying to do the same thing. I'm trying to stop a nuclear war between the United States and Russia. And in order to empower my desire, I seek to learn more about Russia, to get insights into the Russians so I can better explain to an American audience where the Russians are coming from. And for this, I'm considered to be a foreign agent. The American government is stifling free speech, and the consequences of that is to sustain a level of ignorance about the American people that make them powerless to stand up to Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Donald Trump, and others when they articulate the continuation of these policies, which your Russian source said, if they're not stopped, will lead to war. We're on a slippery slope to hell, and all the United States government is doing is pouring Vaseline on it.
Yeah, and then Joe Biden wants to get up there and warn us all that if Donald Trump becomes president, he might weaponize the Department of Justice and use the FBI to go after political adversaries. I mean, I almost laughed and fell out of my chair when I heard him say that. You're literally watching it happening right now, using the Department of Justice to go after individuals like you who are trying to prevent a nuclear war. This is the madness that we're in right now. Remember when the Democrats used to be the party of peace and anti-war? Man, that was a long time ago. A long time ago. Scott Ritter, we appreciate you. Our audience appreciates you. We're thankful that you're safe. We're sorry what happened to you and the weaponization of the DOJ to go after you. But thank you for always telling the truth, and thank you for trying to be and thank you for being so strong in the sea of all of that. I mean, I loved watching you come out after those what those people did to you, and just stand up. You're not going to silence me, and I just got chills. I said, thank you. We need more people who aren't going to be silenced in this. So thank you for your strength.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your support.
Thanks, Scott. And of course, that happened right during our show as well. So,
right.
So thank you, Scott. Appreciate it.
What's amazing, and I don't know if you're subscribed to the Redacted newsletter. I hope you are, but we did a story yesterday about how leaked documents from the Israeli government show them getting legal advice to go around FARA laws so they don't have to register as foreign agents. So people that we know are acting as foreign agents can get by scot-free. And scot-free, see what I did there?
Yeah, I see that.
And others are persecuted for anti-war stance. So it's a crazy world, and especially during election time. So we'll be watching that continuously.
Yeah. So thank you guys so much for subscribing. Hey, if you do subscribe to the show, your name pops up here on the big board. We really appreciate that. I think we're closing in on 2.5 million subscribers on YouTube, close to 600,000 right now on Rumble. So good to see all of you guys subscribe. Thank you guys for being a part of our show on a daily basis. We're live Monday through Thursday. So thank you for joining us on this August 20th here, the dog days of summer. We've got more news to get to here. We're going to talk about RFK Jr. Looks like that's about to happen, dropping out of this race. We'll talk about that. Plus, if you've been following the DNC, of course, there are abortion trucks. Planned Parenthood has rolled out abortion clinics and abortion trucks that you can just walk up and have an abortion right there, as well as vasectomies. Like, this is what the Democratic Party really stands for right now, is making sure that you can go to the DNC and get an abortion on demand. We'll talk about that. But first,
we want to tell you about our friends over at Lear Capital, because, of course, we talk about gold all the time. We talk about how the U.S. dollar continues to be devalued. We talk about, in fact, today in the newsletter, the U.S. dollar hit an all-time low for the year because it continues to tank. What is it based on? What is it backed by? Well, it's used to be backed by gold, and it is no longer. So that's why gold and silver still continues to be such an amazing investment. And in fact, it has held up. It's just up since the pandemic. Up, up, up. You can invest inside of your IRA. Did you know that? So maybe you're thinking, look, the economy is terrible. I don't have expendable money to just invest in something like that. But you can invest at arm's distance using your IRA or any retirement fund if you self-direct it. Lear can teach you how to do this. They will look at what you've got and provide consultation on what is a good investment for you. Can you hold this in a retirement account? Because if you don't, normally your retirement account is just partnered with the government to invest in the stock market. Most likely, if you're a Redacted viewer, you don't like the idea of that, partnering with the government to invest in the stock market. So in the words of Rich Dad, Poor Dad author Robert Kiyosaki, everyone can afford to own some silver. And again, our friends at Lear can teach you how to do this either with your investments that you've got now or inside of an IRA. So call them at 800-613-3557 or go to learredacted.com and see what they can do for you. And again, it's very personalized advice. They're not here to sell you anything other than an education in what is possible for you. So let them teach you how to invest in this way. Learredacted.com is where to go. So we're going to talk about the DNC. Now, we do see, I just want to chit-chat a little bit about the DNC for a second. Obviously, the DNC is a time for Democrats to rally around their cause and get excited, and it usually does give them a poll boost. We see that, right? And we want to see Democrats who actually believe in their cause. We don't want Democrats to actually just be torturing the rest of us for no reason, that they don't believe in it, right? So even though I think most of their causes are terrifying, I don't begrudge them the enthusiasm, but I'm listening. We're watching this every night. Our kids hate it, but we're watching it hoping that they make some sense, that you are passionate enough that you believe in what you're doing. So we're watching that so you don't have to. Yeah,
we watched the whole DNC last night, so you guys don't have to. And it's unbelievable, just like at a high level, macro level, the fact that you have the sitting president of the United States, who you're telling us you revere tremendously, Joe Biden. You have him come on, I think, at like 11:23
Well, they
PM.
ran over an hour late, and so he spoke well into midnight. Now, that sounded like Rachel Maddow, what I just said. You don't have to watch it. It should go through me. I don't mean that. Watch it for yourself if you want to, right? Yeah, Never let me filter information for you.
Well, let me just finish my point. I mean, if you really want if you revere the sitting president of the United States, President Biden, you really want him out there, why are you pushing him almost towards midnight? He was scheduled at 11, so this isn't like a mistake. They scheduled him at 11 p.m., but it ended up being closer to 11:30 by East Coast time by the time he got out there, when most Americans are in bed, of course. Mm-hmm. And so this is the DNC's platform right now. It's like
this is how much they respect the president.
Yeah, try to push him away, kind of slough him off. Okay, you're done now, Joe. It's after 11. No one's going to really see this speech, and now it's Kamala's turn.
Yeah. Well,
the optics were really interesting last night.
Truly. Well, the Democratic National Convention is hosting Planned Parenthood exhibits and mobile trucks that offer free vasectomies and abortions on site. Here is an image of that. I'm kidding. That's a joke. I found that on Twitter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Man, hey, kids, you want a free vest? It's like the Scooby-Doo van or something.
Okay, don't go in there, you guys. Yeah. Here are the real images, and I want to bring that to you. I just thought you might get a little chuckle about that.
Not much better.
Right. I want to talk about this and take this seriously, though. I think most independent or conservative journalists are kind of poking fun at how ridiculous this is, but I just look at this and I think, what are they trying to say to voters? What is the message here? Are they trying to rub it in conservatives' faces? Is it a punk rock move? Is there something here that we want to see? What's the message?
Because at the end of the day, they knew that all of these television cameras were going to be there. They knew that you're going to have independent media. They knew they were going to have Fox News out there with their cameras filming this, talking about this. So this was an orchestrated, planned moment for them to be in front of the camera. So yeah, what are the optics they're going for here?
Okay, well, here's what they told the New York Post. They said the organizers claimed that the stunt was, quote, not political. They said, we knew there was going to be lots of people coming from outside of Illinois, and we just wanted to highlight that Illinois is a great example of how if you center healthcare policy that's based in science and evidence and puts people before politics, then we can really start meeting the needs of the folks in the state. So look at that quote. They want to follow the science and evidence and put people before politics. I'm so glad that you invited me to do that, because I have some science around abortion, IUDs, and vasectomy. So, okay, let's do it, shall we? Now let's start with mobile abortions. This was something out of the HBO series Veep, which again predicted an airhead vice presidential candidate who stumbles her way into the presidency. Remember this?
If men got pregnant, you could get an abortion at an ATM. Let's state the obvious.
Okay, that was supposed to be funny, but we have that now. Walk-up abortions. Democrats are celebrating this as their main talking point to voters, abortions. The convenient abortion makes it seem like you can just waltz in there pregnant and waltz right back out and then just go back to the convention, right as rain. It says to me, you can and should be able to have this whenever you want, like a 24-hour Denny's. But why don't they tell us, if they're putting people before politics, that an abortion increases a woman's risk of breast cancer by some studies 40%? And in fact, this article right here shows that we have known this at least since the 1990s. The reason is that because pregnancy surges estrogen in the body, that stimulates breast growth. And when that process is disrupted abruptly, those cells are at risk. And in fact, every full-term pregnancy that a woman has reduces her risk of breast cancer. And so does breastfeeding. So if we're putting people before politics, wouldn't we tell women this? Like, look, maybe you should have this in difficult circumstances. Abortion is a good idea in some circumstances, but you are at risk if you do this repeatedly. Is it so capricious that you just do it at a mobile truck? If they really cared about women's health care, they would not promote something like this. That's such a tough choice and associated with carcinogenic properties, like a taco truck. It makes me so sad, not to mention the emotional toll that it has on somebody to abort a baby. Democrats are all about the mental health, but they pretend that an abortion is such a nominal event in a person's life that you can just walk up to a truck and have one. That seems cruel to me. Now let's discuss this. This is an 18-foot IUD in the hall at the DNC. An IUD is an intrauterine device that I'm going to explain to you for a second that will prevent pregnancy. IUDs are legal in all 50 states. So why are they so excited about it? Really, what they object to is the fact that some states require a parent's permission for a minor to get it. So why would that be? Well, in case you didn't know, an IUD works by causing inflammation inside the uterus. It either works by releasing a hormone to that region so that the mucus is too thick and the sperm can't get through, or there are copper versions that create an inflammatory response in the uterus that's toxic for sperm. Is it as easy as pie? No, it is not, because it puts a woman's genitals in a state of constant inflammation. Perpetual inflammation. Now, what is one thing that doctors pretty much universally agree is the root of all disease? That answer would be inflammation. IUDs have also been associated with an increased risk of breast cancer. And just this week, I was reading a book about menopause, because I'm about to turn 46. I want to know what fun I'm into, and what fun is in store for me.
What fun I'm in store for, too.
And so I learned from this menopause doctor that when you remove an IUD, it can throw you into such an hormonal imbalance that you lose your hair. That's how dangerous these things are. So knowing that, all of these dangers and risks associated with an IUD, would you stand for a selfie like this with a thumbs up with something that can be so dangerous for women?
No.
I mean, they lie
or let your
to
daughter
us.
Have it. Yeah.
Right. When they promote
it.
this as women's health and fertility, when in fact it is quite the opposite. Now let's talk for a second about mobile vasectomies. The thing that bothers me so much.
I never thought I'd hear those words, mobile vasectomies.
Right. Okay. So let's put the image of this truck up on the screen, I spent a long time looking at this. So a man's going to walk in there and get a mobile vasectomy. Do you see what I see? What's bothering me so much is that the wheels are not blocked off on this truck. And so if you're going to go in there and let someone get close to your balls with a knife, wouldn't you want to be damn sure that the room is not going to move? I say this because
when the van is a rockin', don't come a knockin'.
Right. I mean, my dad, I'm a landscaper's daughter. My dad has like 50 fleet trucks. And one of the first things that he taught me was to always block off the wheels if you do say if you're going to work on the truck at all for an oil change or anything. But I mean, the wheels are not blocked off, you guys.
This type of oil change, no, it does. They just want, because they want to be able to hit the gas and get out of there as quickly as possible.
I mean, what if someone bumps the truck? What if, I mean, this is a mobile home that we're talking about. Someone walking down the hall past the room is going to move it. Anybody else?
Someone in the parking lot
find this a little bit scary.
Someone in the parking lot accidentally just taps the truck as they're in the parking lot, and you're in there, and the doctor is doing their thing.
Right.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
We just got hit. Someone in the parking lot just backed into us.
Right.
I mean,
so here's the room.
It's obviously a vasectomy truck it's a vasectomy truck for real men, and real men take unnecessary risk when they don't.
Okay.
Right.
I mean, just block the wheels. This really upsetting me, this idea.
Also, who's just like randomly driving around the DNC this afternoon? It's like, oh, vasectomy truck. Yeah, you only just pop in there. That was on my list today.
They did have a booking site. You did have to book within the weekend in advance, and they say they're all booked up for at least the next 2 days.
They love making sure population, depopulation and reducing the amount of people that we have in the United States.
Even the taco trucks in your local neighborhood have the wheels blocked off, but you don't do it for vasectomy. Okay, again, you can see I'm fixated on this wheel thing because, ow. Okay. What was I going to say? Did I already show you the room? This is the mobile room.
No, we haven't seen the room.
Here's the operating room. It's pretty teeny. You can either have an abortion or a vasectomy in there, right? Again, on a rock-in van. Now, even liberals can see that this is immoral. Watch this liberal woman saying that this is disgusting behavior.
So we have seen a lot of Jew hatred. We've seen Hamas flags in Chicago outside the DNC, but I want to talk about something else. I want to talk about this Planned Parenthood mobile abortion and vasectomy clinic here offering free vasectomies and abortions right outside the DNC. And they're offering you a free hot dog, the Wiener Circle, after you have your procedure. I understand that the Democrats are using abortion as their primary point to push. And I am pro-choice. I always have been. Abortion is now up to the states, and it is a problem in some states. But this is not the way to advocate against it. Trivializing it, making a joke of it. There is absolutely nothing funny about ending a life. Nothing. I have friends who have had to make this heart-wrenching decision to have an abortion. None of them left feeling celebratory or ready to eat a hot dog. All of them will tell you that they look back on it as the hardest decision that they ever had to make and one of the darkest chapters of their lives. Why are we trivializing ending a life? Why are we trivializing these heart-wrenching decisions that women have to make? It's not funny. I am a liberal, progressive, valued person. This is immorality.
Wow.
Okay. So even liberals don't think it's funny so you see the joke here, get a vasectomy or an abortion and then get a hot dog,
right.
A free hot dog. And she's right. In fact, that hot dog place is called Wiener Circle, posted this on X with these employees championing abortion. And I warn you, it is crass. So cover your ears if you don't like the P word.
Our pussy, our choice.
Okay. I'm going to say I would want to eat somewhere else if the staff in a hot dog place is hyper-focused on their vagina. Note to self, don't go there.
God, don't ever eat at that place.
A short story that goes with this, but I had a friend visiting Portland one time, and there's a very popular gentleman's club that's known for cheap steaks. And so he was like, I want to go get some steaks. I was like, yeah, cool, let's go get some steaks. Where do you want to go? And he mentions this place. And I was like, dude, that is mixing two things that should not be mixed together.
Yeah.
Go eat your steak. Go get your vasectomy. Go get a hot dog. Don't do it at the same time. That's not cool.
Yeah, that's what I
Disgusting.
think.
Yeah.
Also, this whole thing is very self-defeating. Don't liberals want to procreate and have more liberals? As Judith Rose put on X, why is the DNC encouraging its own base to avoid reproduction by offering vasectomies, abortions, and IUDs nearby? Do they not want a base in the future?
No, the Democrats are all about population decline. They absolutely do not want reproduction. And I really scoff at the idea of calling it reproductive rights or reproductive freedom. I mean, really?
No, it's like gender affirming care.
It's not reproductive because it's anti-reproduction.
Yes.
It's not reproductive freedom. How is it free? What are you talking about? So a vasectomy and an abortion is the opposite of that. On top of it, they really do want a population decline. And of course, the big plan, of course, is to bring in as many, illegal immigrants as possible. That's your new base.
Right.
So that's how you replace your base. You literally, you lower your own race and population, but just bring in millions of illegal immigrants into the country.
Well, it does seem like they are the ones who want that, but they don't want to procreate and make any new liberals, enlightened liberals. They will not birth them, I suppose. And she brings a good point. We do have a population crisis, in case you didn't know. These young people in their reproductive years are not being given this information, such as this. Did you know that if you don't have a baby by the time you're 30, your chances of having one are 50%? That is from this great documentary we've talked about many times, Stephen Shaw's documentary called Birth Gap. This statistic really haunts me because I had my first child at 31. So to think that I had a 50% chance of never having my 3 babies, I wish someone had told me that when I was in my 20s. And we sort of framed this as, oh, don't let anybody tell you about your biological clock. That's sexist.
It's anti-feminism.
It's anti-feminist. You shouldn't, right? But then what happens is that there's an entire subset of my generation who was left unintendedly childless. And they were not told that they did not have forever. They were told that anyone who said that was sexist. And so we're not giving it to them straight. So if we really cared about people over the science, we would give them this science that these procedures can harm you in a permanent way. And you could be left without a family and unintendedly childless. And that would be a sad existence if that's not what you wanted. And so you should be given all the data to think about that rather than thinking that this is empowering. Just do things to your reproductive organs that may have a consequence later. And again, we are in a population decline. The numbers are irrefutable. According to Shaw, over the past 70 years, the fertility rate has fallen 50% in most parts of the world, which spells out population decline. This is the case for all nationalities, he says. So you can't say, well, look, Africa, they have a lot of babies, or Latins have a lot of babies. And also, we can't just rely on those places to populate the world. That's also racist. So again, birth control, IUDs, vasectomies, all of this comes with a risk. This is not empowering talk. And this is not fertility. In fact, it's the opposite. And we should all be appalled. So unless I'm missing something, is there anything here that is empowering and that I just don't see? That Democrats are high-fiving each other for these mobile trucks. Just let me know what you think, because I'd love to know what it is that I'm missing, what science it is that I'm missing.
In our chat, Stony Bulldog says, Clayton, run. If she's reading that menopause book, it's over. Run away. I'd like to know what I'm in store for as well. Let's see who else. Rally Car says, well, most RVs have self-leveling systems where a hydraulic post comes out of each corner and stabilizes the vehicle. Yes, that stabilizes it to make it level, but not prevents it from, I've seen all sorts of RVs where they park overnight and they absolutely have the blocks to block the tires, even with the self-leveling posts, because it's still self-leveling posts aren't going to prevent it from being hit and moved.
Right. What if somebody backs into it? What if somebody knocks into it? Right. This is just what I'm fixated on. If this is being used for knives and nether regions,
Jason,
two things that. Yeah, go ahead.
Jason Hines says the population crash is real. Oh,
yes,
it absolutely is. Yeah, exactly. And Sheridan Forbes says, redacted, immigration keeps wages low, home prices high while paying for pensions. Previous generations in government don't want lower home prices. You can start a stable family from renting.
Yes, legal immigration does that too.
Yeah.
So that's something we absolutely should discuss.
So good to see all of you guys. Thank you guys for subscribing and being a part of our show. We've got more news to get to. We're going to talk about RFK Jr. The possibility is here that he might be dropping out of the race. That, according to his running mate, Nicole Shanahan, just sort of dropped a bomb on social media just a short time ago in an interview that's going viral now. We'll talk about that, the implications for third-party candidates. Also, Biden's border record. Last night, President Biden stood up there and told all of us that, yes, the Harris-Biden administration has been stronger on the border than Donald Trump. We'll talk about that with J.J. Carroll. He's a former 24-year veteran of the Customs and Border Protection. He's working on a brand new documentary called This Is Treason. So J.J. is going to join us. But first, recently, Wall Street firms raised their year-end S&P 500 forecasts after the May 15th CPI data came out. So we could see a similar stock surge. Maybe, maybe not. Whether or not it actually happens, who knows? But having a reliable trading app as your tool is always a choice. And that is why I want to tell you about our friends over at Moomoo. They are today's sponsors. Moomoo offers some exciting bonuses for new users. They have a competitive 5.1% APY with a 3-month 3% APY booster for new U.S. accounts. They also can get 15 free stocks by depositing $1,000 and maintaining the balance for 60 days. Australians enjoy something similar as well. You get 6.8% P.A cash interest for 180 days. That's up to $3,353 for a cash balance of $100,000. Now, that's up to 10 free shares with eligible deposits as well, and maintaining that account balance for 30 days. So use my link down below to sign up and see more information about that. Get your new user reward from Moomoo when you start your investment journey with our sponsor Moomoo today. The link works for users in both regions, both the United States and Australia. Check out the link below for more information. Well, we just got some breaking news just a few minutes ago. We were talking about nuclear war here, and just in, President Biden has ordered U.S. forces to prepare for possible nuclear confrontations with Russia, China, and North Korea specifically, but Russia at the top of that list. So Biden ordering U.S. forces to prepare for possible nuclear confrontations. The timing is pretty remarkable, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right? Like right after the night where he speaks to the DNC and he is officially out. Like, you need something to lock in and wag the dog heading into the 2024 election cycle. But we've been warning about this, and it seems like this is about to happen. So we'll keep our eyes on this.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s running mate, Nicole Shanahan, said recently that their campaign is considering merging with the Trump campaign in some form or fashion because they have been thwarted, sabotaged, and attacked at every turn by the Democratic Party. Now, we already knew from the way that the Democrats did dirty to Bernie Sanders that their game plan is always to attack anyone that threatens them. But now we know they've been doing it to RFK Jr. as well. She said this on the Impact Theory podcast recently. Here's the clip that's going viral.
What my gut tells me right now is that we just have to keep being honest. I got to just keep being honest. I got to keep focusing on what matters the most outside of party lines. I need to focus on a vision that goes beyond November. And if that means that we stay in, and, you know, there's benefits to staying in. If we get over 5% of the vote, we actually establish ourselves as a party. 71% of Americans want a strong third party with a real shot at winning. There's even public funds available if we get over 5% of the vote. So we could get, I think it's like $13.5 million in public funds to keep the party going. And that's, you know, that's worth something. That means that we can position for a real third party election in 2028 where we don't have to go around and spend tens of millions of dollars on ballot access, which means that we can spend all of that time and money campaigning. So, you know, there's two options that we're looking at. And one is staying in, forming that new party, but we run the risk of a Kamala Harris and Waltz presidency because we draw votes from Trump, or we draw somehow more votes from Trump, or we walk away right now and join forces with Donald Trump, and you know, we walk away from that and we explain to our base why we're making this decision. Not easy.
Clearly.
Yeah, not an easy decision.
Now,
bless her. I mean, you can tell her heart's really in it, the fact that she's breaking into tears. But they're in a rock and a hard place. There's no real options here that seem awesome. And it's important that she tells us about this fork in the road, because do you stick it out knowing that you might lose, but if you lose by less, then you pave the way for independent candidates in the future. But if Kamala Harris wins, the Democratic Party beast only grows into a bigger power monster, and they likely wouldn't let any third party succeed to the level that RFK Jr. already has in the next election. Well, how do we know this? Because Nicole Shanahan explains how the DNC has sabotaged, cheated, and thwarted them at every turn. And again, given what we know about what they did to Bernie Sanders, I'm apt to believe her.
Start this campaign, I did not put in tens of millions of dollars to be a spoiler candidate. I put in tens of $millions to win, to fix this country, to do the right thing. I will say that Clear Choice, this PAC, this DNC aligned PAC that was created specifically to take us out, has spent millions of dollars to take us out. They have unfortunately turned us into a spoiler. And we don't want to be a spoiler. We wanted to win. We wanted a fair shot. The DNC made that impossible for us. They have banned us, shadow banned us, kept us off stages, manipulated polls, used lawfare against us, sued us in every possible state. They've even planted insiders into our campaign to disrupt it and to create actual legal issues for us. I mean, the extent by which the sabotage they've unleashed upon us, it's mind-blowing. I mean, we're still learning new ways that they have sabotaged us. I really wanted a fair shot at this election, and I believed in the America that a little girl pledged an allegiance to. And that is not where we are today. And it's not because of the Republican Party taking us out. It is exclusively because of the Democratic Party taking us out. And I am so disappointed I ever helped them. I am so disappointed that I helped Chuck Schumer in that Georgia runoff secure a majority. It's probably one of the biggest mistakes of my life.
Okay.
I mean, the same thing happened to Howie Hawkins. I mean, we've interviewed Howie Hawkins, a former Green Party candidate, who specifically dove into the deep details about the Democratic Party using lawfare to go after them in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania to keep them off the ballot. And that's the thing. This is a uniparty. Republicans and Democrats have a sort of a gentleman's agreement. Right. It's like a backroom Washington, D.C. cigar agreement that they will never allow a third party. They will sort of and that's why they're the uniparty.
Well, we talk about a uniparty, but what she's talking about is sabotage specifically from the DNC, which shows us that the Democrats thought that RFK was big enough of a threat, that he was talking enough sense, that they had to sabotage rather than give him a fair shot. So they didn't fight fair. So yes, when we talk about the uniparty, did the Republicans just rely on the Democrats to do this kneecapping? Or was this really the work of the Democrats to the extent which they would then, this campaign would trust Republicans more? And it shows us how the rest of us are just completely powerless to the cartel that is the DNC. And again, recall that RFK was originally running as a Democrat because he thought that he could beat Trump. So what are the issues then that would make him align with Trump? Is it just because he sees how dirty the Democrats are now? Or is it more? Because what are the issues? How do they align? I mean, if we just kind of go down the list, the war in Ukraine, well, RFK has showed that he has a better understanding of the war in Ukraine than, what was that?
No, we hear.
Oh, okay. Than Trump does.
Right.
So they might align on having a real conversation about that. Vaccine safety. Well, Trump is still very pro-vaccine, but he is at least willing to engage on freedom and choice and vaccine safety. The Democrats will not at all engage about vaccine. It's full vax or else character attacks. The economy, well, RFK Jr. is for smaller government and less war funding. On that, at least we have a convergence of thought. The war on Israel, well, they all support that. We'd have no peace vote at all in this election for the war in Israel. But should we vote for them? You just closed my notes. Let's see where I was. I just had a crash.
Let me just say, in the history, the history of the United States, we've never had a successful third-party candidate. I just want to I'm always reminded of this, right? If you're one of my favorite U.S. presidents, Theodore Roosevelt, and here was a successful, one of the most popular presidents in American history, right? And Theodore Roosevelt, he leaves office, then comes back and runs on a third-party ticket, the Bull Moose Party, and he can't win. He can't win.
Right.
As a third-party candidate outside of the Republican Party, outside of the Democratic Party, one of the most popular presidents in American history runs as a third-party candidate, and he can't win.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens to Dennis Kucinich in Ohio, who we interviewed here on Redacted, running as an independent, because he also has incumbent power, I would say. And if he could win there, maybe, right?
Well,
maybe there's a growing hope.
We've definitely seen it, of course, in the Senate and in the House of Representatives. Link Chafee, of course, of Rhode Island, as a famous independent candidate, a famous, independent member of Congress for many, many years. So there are, we have independents who've won, Jesse Ventura as governor of Minnesota. So you have independents who can win local races. And I think that speaks to the state and local level in these races. But when these two parties come together on a massive level at the presidential level, they are locked in agreement that they are not going to have a third party be successful.
Yeah.
They're not going to allow these people.
I mean, we're having a defeatist argument here, but let's look at the numbers, because she says that their campaign is siphoning off votes from Trump, not from the Democrats, not from Kamala Harris. Well, let's look at the numbers right now. According to Real Clear Politics, right now, Kamala Harris has a 46% advantage over Donald Trump at 44%, and RFK Jr. has 4.5%. So if you were to shift that 4.5% to Trump, it would put him ahead. But we're not sure if those 4.5% voters would go to Trump, so we just can't know. But again, if this campaign does blend with a party, we all lose a little bit, because it means we're really stuck with a uniparty that parades as a two-party system. And, we both just have these two crappy organizations that are Democrats and Republicans. Now, keep an eye on this 4.5% number, because I want to remind you that the Green Party won 2% of the votes in 2020 with Howie Hawkins, who we just mentioned. So at least RFK Jr. is doing double what Howie Hawkins was able to do for an independent candidate. So you can see that it's growing, but if you keep an eye on those numbers, double was never going to do it. From 2 to 4% is not going to win. It needed to go much more than that. 10 times more voters would just not be enough. So we're stuck with these idiots, Republicans and Democrats. And again, we still do have other independent candidates that we never hear about, such as Dr. Shiva, right? We've had him on the show several times.
Yeah, we've had Dr. Shiva on the show multiple times. Independent media, for whatever reason, will not have him on. I mean, maybe they do. Maybe there's been a few now that have had him on, but for some reason, they sort of got locked into focusing on RFK Jr. They get focusing on Donald Trump, the Kamala Harris, but then you have Dr. Shiva, who is not a lawyer, not a part of the establishment, brilliant man, invented email, for crying out loud. He holds the copyright on email for having created it. And he's gone up against the deep state. He's exposed the deep state. And of course, again, why are we stuck with these two parties when you have people like Dr. Shiva out there trying to get in. And the mainstream media won't put him on. Do you think Fox News is going to have him on? Do you think MSNBC is going to put him on?
No more than they would platform Bernie Sanders in 2016.
No, we know that from reporters or producers who've whistleblown about MSNBC being told specifically to keep Bernie Sanders off their air.
In order to promote Hillary Clinton, in order to put her in that spot for the Democratic ticket.
Right.
So no matter what you think of RFK Jr. and Shanahan, you got to hand it to them. They really fought a good fight against the two barnacles that we have, which are Democrats and Republicans. So it would seem that we don't really have a choice, but let us know what you think. If RFK Jr. would to merge with the Trump ticket in some form or fashion, would you go with them? Would that change your vote? I really want to know how you feel about that.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you on that point. So a few minutes ago, I talked about this breaking news. So these new documents just released. It's interesting why we're learning this stuff right now, after President Biden is kind of officially done. So the New York Times breaking this story about these approved secret nuclear strategy now focusing on Russia and China that has put American forces on high alert, but we don't get to hear about it. So this was done in secret, preparing for a nuclear war with Russia, China, North Korea. And so these documents being released from the New York Times just got access to this. So it's amazing. We learn about the impeachment problems. We learn about all the offenses by the Biden administration, by the Biden family, Hunter Biden, all of these things we start learning about right as he's kind of done.
When it doesn't matter.
Unbelievable.
Or does it?
We're going to talk about the border. We're going to talk about Biden's border issues here in a moment. He spoke last night, talked about how the border is more secure than when President Trump was in power. J.J. Carroll, former U.S. Border Protection agent and supervisor, is going to be joining us to talk about that. And we're going to talk so much more about what that looks like going forward into 2024 and 2025, who will be surrounding the next president of the United States, and will the United States collapse as a result of it? But first, I want to tell you about our friends over at ARMRA. Okay, colostrum evolved 300 million years ago, and this is the first milk all mammals produce. It's the first nutrition we receive in life, and it contains all the nutrients your body needs in order to thrive. Over 5,000 research publications document the health properties it confers across all stages of life. And ARMRA colostrum is patent-pending premium bovine colostrum concentrate that leveraged proprietary cold-chain biopotent pasteurization technology. Say that 5 times fast. And it'll preserve colostrum's 400-plus bioactive nutrients in their purest, most bioavailable form. And so take a look at this with your screen. If you're always on the lookout for ways to strengthen your immunity, protect yourself, your gut health, improve your fitness, your metabolism, and enhance your skin, your hair radiance, all of it, I know Natalie is, then ARMRA colostrum could be for you. So again, you get the strength and immunity, plus you get the benefits of optimizing your whole body microbiome at the same time, strengthening your immune barriers to whatever they're going to throw at us. You want to throw monkeypox at us next? Bird flu? Attacking your sinuses, your lungs, your gut, urinary, or reproductive tract, all of it. You get the fortified gut health from colostrum. So right now, 15% off your first order. All you need to do is go to tryarmra.com/redacted or enter the code redacted to get 15% off your first order. If you're going to order it, why not try them? If you're thinking about doing this for your body, why not give them a try? Tryarmra.com/redacted, get 15% off your first order. And we thank them for supporting the show and believing in independent media. We couldn't do this show without the few sponsors that we have here that really support independent media. And, we're up against these massive behemoth, billion-dollar corporations that want to silence what we talk about on this show. So thanks to ARMRA for supporting us. Tryarmra.com/redacted, get 15% off your first order. Well, during President Biden's farewell address at the DNC last night, Biden delivered an impassioned defense of his border policies, saying border crossings are down under his administration compared to Donald Trump. Listen.
Border encounters have dropped over 50%. In fact, there are fewer border crossings today than when Donald Trump left office.
And of course, Democrats are against border walls. They're emphatically against border walls, yet surrounding the DNC is a massive border wall. They've erected a barrier that is impenetrable, and you need an ID in order to enter the Democratic National Convention. The irony is so thick. We wanted to bring in J.J. Carroll. He's a 24-year veteran of the Customs and Border Protection and is working on a brand new documentary called This Is Treason. He's traveled the country, seen treason in all corners of this United States as it relates to the illegal migration and child trafficking in the United States. And JJ joins us now. Welcome back to the show, JJ. Great to see you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And I was watching the same thing as you, and I'm thinking, do they even understand the irony or the hypocrisy that they wallow in? Build a border wall to keep the other savages out from coming into their property. And you need ID. I thought ID was racist. I thought walls were racist. And nobody points it out. It's crazy, right? It's like we're living in the Twilight Zone sometimes, I swear to you. And then you mentioned Joe Biden. You showed Joe Biden saying it's the most secure border ever. I'm looking at my screen right here that I pulled up just so I have all the numbers as of today on CBP. There's 11 million illegal aliens have been arrested in 4 years. That's not even counting the last 2 months. And it's not counting the million they flew in off the books or the other 15 to 18 million that came in undetected, absconded. It's absurd. It's like I'm living in a Twilight Zone. And the universe I'm living in is a upside down, where the truth is the lies and the lies are the truth. It's crazy. It really is.
Well, that's what the DNC was last night. I just looked at my wife. I said, you got to be kidding me. Biden is actually saying that the border is more secure under his administration, he and Kamala's administration, than Trump. I couldn't believe it. I said, I've got to get JJ on. Like, really? Is that the truth? I mean, how is he able to say that? Can you just give us like the cold hard facts? I mean, and even give us conservative numbers. Give us the cold hard facts. Is what Biden said even remotely accurate?
No, it's not. And Biden doesn't know what planet he's on. He has no idea. He thinks he's still vice president or senator in Delaware. But here's the cold hard facts. Current data in CBP, over 11 million people have been arrested and released into the United States of America. Of the 12 million, outside the 12 million, there's another million that CBP has acknowledged that they have flown in under the Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuelan policy program they have. They don't even put them in the data. There's no category for them. They just let them come in. That's 13 million. They claim 3 million getaways. Now we're at 16 million. That's just what they're saying. I know these numbers are grotesquely conservative. They're lies. They've been already proven to be lies. Mayorkas lies every single day. Joe Biden has no idea where he's at. The border it's out of control. Like, they just posted July's numbers. July's numbers came out to 170,000 plus probably another 40,000 they did not count flying in under CBP. So we're over 200,000. That to them is a good day. That's a good month. We're doing well. And I'm just like, inside the 12 million that have been arrested and released, 250,000 are special interest aliens. Tens of thousands of PLA soldiers. They're special interest aliens. Yeah, that's DHS speak for terrorist. Terrorist on some level, Clayton, either they're messengers or couriers to recruiters, to the money people. And here's something I want your audience to understand when we talk about terrorists, special interest aliens. And I explained this to my 13-year-old son just 2 days ago. He was asking me about terrorism. I said, listen, Joseph, understand that the United States of America has not gone out and vetted the 8.2 billion people on planet Earth and has this terrorist watch list that we pulled from 8.2 billion people and said, okay, these are the 600,000 people that are terrorists. It's absurdity. We just know they're terrorists because of the ones that we have found in terrorist acts or have wiretapped them, found them. There's millions of people. And we, because of our actions in America, have created tens of millions of people that despise us and hate us, and we're allowing them into our country. They're not labeled terrorists, but they are terrorists. And it's no way around. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I want to play for you some sound from Alejandro Mayorkas, the head of the Department of Homeland Security, who says, JJ, you're lying.
Some, he says, have accused DHS of not enforcing our nation's laws. This could not be further from the truth. The majority of all migrants encountered at the southwest border throughout this administration have been removed, returned, or expelled, a majority of them. We are doing everything we can within a broken system to incentivize non-citizens to use lawful pathways, to impose consequences on those who do not, and to reduce irregular migration.
So, JJ, they're removing, reducing, and moving all of them out.
You can't even keep a straight face, can you, Clayton? You can't.
I tried. I just fell out of my chair again laughing at these guys. I mean, they say these things because they think people will believe them. When you're hearing those statistics in that 30-second soundbite, there's like 7 lies in there, isn't there?
There are. Okay, first let's start with they're not migrants. Words have meanings. It has power. They're illegal aliens. They're not migrants. Secondly, he said that the majority have all been expelled, deported, whatever. He doesn't even use the word deported. You notice that? Expelled, sent back. Well, leaked inside one of his meetings, he admitted openly that at least, his words, at least minimum 85% of everyone we arrest, we release. That's his words, minimum 85. I know the number to be 95 to 97%, meaning the whole 12 million people that crossed under Biden's administration have all been released. And the ones that we sent back, the majority are all Mexican nationals, and they just go through the open border and they come flying in. This is absurdity. And what he's saying by pathways. So everybody understands the terminology that he likes to use. Pathways are asylum, parole, CBP One app. He's making those legal. Just because some man waves a magic wand and says, this is all legal, it doesn't make it legal. Just because he says it's legal, just because out of willy-nilly, no. He's illegally allowing people into America. He's abused the parole program. He abused the asylum system. There's no such thing as catch and release. It's against the INA, Immigration Nationality Act. He can't do anything that he's doing now. It's against the law. And listen to him speak. He doesn't make me upset anymore, Clayton. But you know who makes me upset? Are all the gutless and impotent rhinos that just sit there and they do nothing as our nation is being destroyed by invaders and truly savages that are terrorists, soldiers, gang members. Look at what's happening just by the Venezuelan gangs in America. They're taking over sections of Colorado, Denver, and Aurora. They're just taking them over, and we are doing nothing to stop it. It's a shame.
You were just in Colorado recently, and Aurora, Colorado, of course, making headlines with these Venezuelan gangs who have taken over apartment complexes, and the owners of the apartment complexes can't evict them because they've just illegally taken them over. Am I right?
You are right, and I listened to the city council for Aurora talking about it. And they were like, "Well, no, this is a slumlord issue. No. It doesn't matter what issue you want to say. Venezuelan prison gangs took over a 99 apartment unit complex, and then instead of sending the money to the landlord, they were collecting the rent. And then it comes out that the city council actually says, well, that's not the only apartment complex. There are several that they have taken over in Aurora, and now they run it all. Now, and you're having broad daylight armed robberies of jewelry stores in Aurora and outside of Denver. Look, Denver's collapsing. Denver has 700,000 people live inside Denver metro area. 70,000 of that 700,000 are illegal aliens. And you think they're going to stay in? No, they're going to bleed out. They're bleeding out to Aurora right now. Where else are they going to go in the metro area? Probably all through it.
That's just a microcosm of Biden's immigration policies right now. So we'll see. I mean, this is day one of the DNC. We're going to see a lot more lies being spread over the next couple of days. We'll get to hear Kamala Harris speak about how she's been so great at the border on Thursday night. She's the border czar, after all. JJ, try to get some popcorn. Try not to lose your mind. And thank you so much for shining a light on the lies that were being spewed at the DNC. Great to see you as always, JJ. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Clayton.
Yeah, thanks, JJ. Yeah, try to watch the DNC with a bowl of popcorn or something, because it's just been, what a train wreck it's been to watch that. Last night we got together and we sat there and watched it and had like some snacks. We're like, this is like worse than the worst Hollywood movie you can imagine. Anyway, our thanks to JJ for joining us today. Hey, I should tell you about our VIP community. Yes, we have a Redacted Plus community. I don't think I ever really mentioned it, or haven't talked about it in like a month or so. It's a great way for you guys to connect with us and become part of our Redacted Plus community. You know, this show is totally free to watch on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute, X. However, we do have a private sort of members-only community. If you want to support independent journalism, you can do that for the price of a cup of coffee once a month. Again, we don't take money from Big Pharma, the military-industrial complex, or anything, so we are supported by you guys and the few sponsors we have here on the show. If you want to come over to our Redacted Plus Club and join up, we have exclusive interviews, content that you won't see other places. Join our Natalie's Book Club over there as well, and we have some big plans as we head into the end of this year and into the new year here for the Redacted Plus community. So really excited about that. So come over to redacted.inc and click on the community right there, the Redacted Plus, and join up. Again, for the price of a cup of coffee once a month. If you'd like to support what we do here, you can become a Redacted Plus member, and we would love you for it. So thank you guys so much. All right, guys, night 2 of the Democratic National Convention. We'll be watching that. And what will the NATO response be to what Vladimir Putin has to say? What is about to happen in Ukraine? A total disaster. So we'll be watching all of that and more. And we'll be back here tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, streaming live. So until then, guys, have a great night, everyone.